All right. Number 4. This one, this is, I have to cut into this box. This is, all right. Put that knife away before you can put out an eye out, kid. Okay. All right, we got some pink bubble wrap. This is the most inventive shipping because I'm pretty sure the box was built from other boxes, which, you know, use what you got. We got some, this is really a cool bubble wrap. It's like if I was gonna have a bubble wrap party, especially for my daughter, this would be the bubble wrap that I would purchase. Okay, nothing in the box. It is a Fender Squier. It looks like an Infinity, right? Infinity in black. It looks in very good condition. I mean, almost new. Nice and light. These are supposed to be alder bodies now. Okay, so a couple cool things. Tuning keys. They're the nicer tuning keys. You know, I don't know if you guys have had experience with the Affinity guitars from Squier, but they use different tuning keys in different batches. Not every batch, but through the years, I've seen some with one style tuning keys and another, and then back to that style, and then back to another. These are the nicer tuning keys, so really cool. The nut is, you know, it's just plastic. There is definitely fret sprout. It is not horrific, but it's there, so we are going to correct that. This will definitely feel better once we polish those fret ends. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward. So this is going to be a very straightforward video. We are going to just turn this into the closest thing we can get to its big brother or big sister, the American standard Stratocaster, right? Let's get it to the real deal. Cheap pickups, cheap electronics, all this will go. We're gonna make it better. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this better. All right, so let's check it out. So I'm sure a bunch of you are thinking right now, you know, what is really the difference between, let's say, this $199 Squier and a $1,000 American Stratocaster? First, I do have a video. You can go to the link in the description about that where I've explained the differences. But really what I want to get into is not the component differences, but the fit and finish differences, because that's what we're going to do today on this episode. We're going to spend a lot of time making this guitar feel and play like an American Stratocaster. Now, we all know upgrading the electronics is gonna be a big deal, and obviously hardware changes, those are a big deal. But believe it or not, what I wanna show you today is that there's one thing in particular that I really would focus on more than anything else, and that's the way the neck and the frets feel. That's, to me, when I pick up a Mexican-made or American-made Stratocaster, what I immediately feel over these really low-priced Squier guitars. So what we're gonna do is take the strings off, and I'm gonna show you all the tools I use and how I'm going to take care of that. I wanna go in order of importance. The first tool that I would recommend you use if you have a guitar like this is this one by Stu Mac. Now, if it looks like an emery board, that it is basically, but this is very inexpensive. I think it's like $2.95, $3. I buy at least 4 or 5 of these at a time. They work great. What you're gonna have is you're gonna have a coarse side right here, a fine side right here, and an even finer side right here. If I was gonna guess, I'm gonna say this is 1500 grit. This is about 12,000 or 8,000 grit, and this is probably about 6,000 grit. Now, what's great about this is so fine of a coarse that you really can't damage an unfinished neck like this. So you take a unfinished, inexpensive guitar neck like this, and you have some fret sprout. In other words, these frets are kind of sticking out on the side. That's what fret sprout means. It means that the frets are sticking out and you kind of feel them like barbs, you know, right? And it's because the neck is shrank and the frets didn't. They stayed the length that they were cut to, so they are sticking out. We say sprout, but really they didn't move, the neck did. You take a file like this, which is, take the coarse side and you put it right here at an angle, kind of downward. See how I'm doing it like this? And then whenever you're doing any kind of fret filing work, anything, especially if you're going to be taking metal pieces off, you want to go ahead and cover up these pickups so that they don't get anything on them, because they're going to want to get all those little pieces of metal. Okay, so same thing, you go in an angle and you just go like this. And what's funny is this fret sprout isn't that bad, so I would actually suggest to a customer or to anyone, a player out there, that if you had a guitar like this might be enough. In fact, it feels dramatically, I mean, it's night and day. Right here, I can do this without hurting my fingers. Right here, I would chew my fingers up. So, do that. Then after you do that side, obviously go to this side, same thing. Now another technique is to use it almost like your cuticle. You're coming at a downward angle and you just use the sides on each side of the fret, like this. And this works really good if you want to just kind of shape the fret. And the reason I say this is this thing is foam padded. It's really non-destructive. Now, if you have binding, I'm going to say this over and over again in this video. If you have binding on your guitar, that's a different story. If you have a heavy lacquer or polyurethane coated neck, that's a different story. You can scratch that stuff with this stuff. So you're gonna take some time, you wanna tape that off. Okay, so that's what happens if you have light fret sprout. What if it's more extreme? Well, if it's more extreme, this is a fret-in file, and this file is very particular because it looks like a normal little file, but it comes from StewMac, and if some people like to tell you that StewMac's too expensive, sometimes they are. However, whether they're too expensive or not, they have some good tools, and this tool in particular is my favorite tool. In fact, if there's only one tool I would ever recommend to anyone to do your own fret sprouts or fret-in dress, it's this tool right here. And the reason is where it's squared off on one side, it's rounded on the other. So this rounded side, look how I'm not afraid to do this, okay? And the reason is because it's rounded over, okay? It's smooth. Now, if I was to flip it over and do the other side, I would actually cut and score into the wood. So this is frictionless and it doesn't damage anything. So what you want to do, we're going to take this fret right here, take the rounded side down, come up to the side of the fret. I use my finger right here on it so it doesn't pop off and cause any damage, and just lightly round it to the top. See? Just go right till it's flat. When you're flat, you've gone enough. So again, let up, back and forth to the top. Come to the other side, do the same thing. Back and forth and to the top. Now some people will tell you to go only in one direction. That is fine as well. I've had no problems doing both, although sometimes it's nicer to just go in a downstroke motion. You get smoother, rounder edges. But how I look at it is you have to finish, which is to find a downstroke, but sometimes at first if I'm trying to get a little material out of the way. The reason I'm saying that is this is a very fine file. It's such a fine file that it's one of the things I like about it. You can't really just take off a lot of material and go, oh my goodness, I guess I'm gonna have to refret this thing. So there you go, you round it off. Now, you basically do that. Now, if you're nervous, or if you have a fretboard, like I said, with binding or lacquer, more expensive guitar, you wanna take some time and do exactly what I'm doing now. And you're gonna have to do this every fret. It's a long, tedious process to get it right. And that's how I like to do that. And the same thing. And what I find about that is I don't feel that I can be more aggressive this way. Either way, I don't wanna, I'm really not touching the neck fretboard at all. What I've learned, the technique I've learned is to constantly keep the files on the metal. So I'm almost like hover, that's why if you see how I'm kind of putting downward pressure on both sides of the file, like a teeter-totter. I want total control because I never want it to actually touch anything besides the metal. And I do that. And the main reason I'm doing it this way is because I'm gonna finish this with my favorite thing ever for frets, which is the micro mesh that I get from StewMac. Again, this is probably gonna sound like a StewMac commercial. I wanna show you what I do. First of all, it comes in sheets. It's very expensive. I wanna point that out. It's like $50 for a set. If you buy a set at home, it should last you a couple years. I go through about one of these a month. So starts at 1,500, ends at 12,000. It's like 9 sheets. So what I like about it is it comes with this foam block. And I'm gonna take the first one, and all you do is gonna wrap it over the foam block like so. And this foam block's so soft, and we just do this. Now, I love doing this, and there's a reason why I'm doing it this way on this guitar. One of the things that make this guitar great is that it doesn't have a finish on the neck. What I'm trying to do is not polish the fret ends. We can do that anyway. I'm trying to round the fretboard over. That's why I want to be touching the fretboard. I want to simulate 20 years of playing and somebody's fingers rubbing the sides of these fretboards and making them feel rounded and smooth and fantastic. So I just go up and down aggressively. Again, I just want to work this in. Almost, it's not like relicking, but it's like wearing in. Something that I think that started the relicking craze was, it started with something as simple as people would play a guitar for 20 years and then buy a new guitar and say, man, this doesn't feel the same. And then everybody's like, okay. So then companies thought, well, we can break them in. So that started that. Then it started just chipping up the guitars and stuff. And maybe that was just the aesthetic for look. But what I do find legitimate about relicking in that fashion is that when you wear in fretboard sometimes, it feels good. Now, sometimes they go crazy and they wear out fretboards and spots. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that. You know, to each their own, as I always say. But for me personally, feeling the frets, like on the ends, feeling worn out. And again, I want to be touching the fretboard because this fretboard is very sharp-ended and I want to round it over. And I don't want to be aggressive and use heavy sandpaper. Like I said, 1500, you guys know, we're not, that's a finishing sand to the most part anyways. So now once we do both sides, okay, now all we're gonna do is go to the next sheet. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Feels good. Now to clean this, we're gonna use a normal microfiber cloth and we're gonna use some fretboard conditioner. But first, what we wanna do is take the normal fretboard microfiber cloth. Microfiber is the key. And just take all this out. It all comes out. You can actually tell by the rag, see? We started with that dirty, we got to that dirty, we're getting this dirty. You see it's getting less each time. There's less material to get out of the fretboard. Okay, see? So obviously, right? So this last time, what we're gonna do, this is the important part. I use a pump spray, 1 spritz. I know I did 2, but you get one, it didn't correctly fire. Anyways, very light. I mean, this is nothing. Like I can't even feel it. And it is so light. And the reason is I don't wanna saturate the fretboard and push any of that dirt into the fretboard. I'm using this just to help me grab and get out like a cleaner. All right, the first thing I want to tell you when it comes to these guitars, these Squier instruments, do not replace components. Don't replace a pickup, don't replace a potentiometer. Gut everything as a whole. It's the best advice I could give you for 1,000 reasons. Take every single, in fact, if you want, just take the whole pickguard out, input jack, the whole 9 yards, put it in a bag and replace everything. If you ever sell the guitar, you put the old guts already assembled back in place. So that's what I recommend. In this case, what we're gonna do is almost that. We're gonna keep the pickguard, but we're gonna replace all the electronics. So we're gonna pull all the electronics out as a whole. So here's what your electronics look like. They're pretty basic. Let's go over the parts we're gonna put in, the parts we have. So what we have is a pretty inexpensive PC board based 5-way switch, some small alpha pots, and these ceramic pickups. And these pickups, they're not horrible. I mean, some people don't like them. It's, you know, it's a sound thing. I'm not a big fan of them myself, but the quality wise are not the worst. So what are we gonna replace it with? Well, we're gonna go to all Fender parts. We're gonna go to a Fender potentiometers for the 3 potentiometers. We're gonna go to a Fender 5-way switch because why not? Stuff's pretty good. And we're gonna put 3 new pickups in it. So here's what I've decided to put in it. First, the boring one. Let's go with the boring one. I'm going to use a Seymour Duncan SSL1. Put the cover, a new cover on it, stick that in the middle. This is a middle position Seymour Duncan SSL1 pickup. So pretty standard pickup. Obviously with Alnico magnets, it's going to be a much more dynamic and much improved pickup over these less expensive ceramics. Now the next thing we're gonna do is the neck pickup, and I'm gonna put a stacked single coil in there. And to show you, I wanna show you what that is. So basically, this is what inside one looks like. What a stacked single coil is it's a pickup that looks like a single coil. It's gonna give you a single coil sound because the range in which it hears is not wide like a humbucker, right? It's narrow. And it actually has two pickups. See, they're just stacked on top of each other. The second one, being wired in, cancels out like a humbucker. It bucks the hum. So that's what this is going to be. That's why it's pretty tall. We have to check to make sure that there's enough room inside, and there was. So this is going to be the neck pickup. That's going to be a really great lead pickup because it won't make any noise. It'll sound great, and it'll still give you kind of a Fender kind of sound. And then in the bridge, we're going to put a mini humbucker, and this is a Seymour custom shop pearly gates. So you heard me right. I think a lot of you guys would probably think the 59 or the JB. I actually like the pearly gates the best, and it's only available through their custom shop. Again, no endorsement or sponsorship, so I'm just telling you what I like. Now, then Sharpen My Axe, the whole premise of this was to do to the guitar what I would do, not to what I think the person wants to do. That is what is in my bridge position, so that's why I had to use one of my pearly gates because I thought about it, and it seemed hypocritical to tell everybody to put a 59 or something in there when I'm using those. So Seymour Duncan pearly gates, custom shop. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take all the guts off this board intact. So I've unscrewed this piece. This is pretty straightforward. You're just gonna cut the two wires, the input jack. The input jack is gonna go as well. You have one ground wire right here that goes to your bridge. Just go ahead and snip that. And now your entire assembly is free. Okay, now like I said, a good idea sometimes is just to keep this intact like it is and go ahead and get rid of it. In this case, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this board, but we're gonna take all the electronics off as they're all connected, leave them connected, put them in a bag so that you can always put them back if you want to. Okay, so I've removed all the guts and you can see how it all came in one piece. And I wanna show you one thing I like to do. I like to take painter's tape and I wrap all the pickups facing the same direction so that they can't flop around and damage each other, chip each other's magnets, but more importantly, they can't kind of run north and south on each other or do anything wacky. So that's how I put it together, and I always put it in like a little Ziploc bag. This is kind of like the thing I like to do. And then I write what these components are. If they're nicer pickups, I put them back in their boxes, but these pickups, you know, this is pretty much the resting place. Now, one of the reasons I'm keeping the original pickguard is that, and currently all I have is actual Fender pickguards, and even though they're the same 11-hole pattern, they don't line up correctly with some of these Squiers. The one I had didn't. I don't want to drill new holes. I don't want to go through the aggravation of that. It's a $10 part. It's another added cost to doing this. I just decided, let's just use the pickguard. Okay, so let me explain a couple things. This is how I want to wire up a pickguard. I want to put all the components on it. So I've installed the pickups, the switch, the knobs. That's what it looks like underneath. There's the capacitor I'm going to use. Couple things to note. Reason why I say just replace everything, you notice you'll come across problems constantly. Like first thing, the knobs that came with the Squier don't even fit on the Fender posts, so they're too small. So these are new knobs, so a new knob kit was required. So we got 3 new plastic knobs, a new switch tip, and a 5-way switch, 3 new potentiometers, 3 new pickups. Everything is new except for the original pickguard. So, and the reason I like to do it this way is now I'm just gonna lay it here and wire it up as it sits. So we've installed a new output jack. This is the old one, it's junky. We went with a Switchcraft. We're gonna solder that together, so that will go there. And drop this in, and she's gonna be great. So the question is, what about the bridge? Well, I wanna take a look at the bottom of the bridge. So let's take a look at the, okay. It's a cheap block bridge. It doesn't resonate very well. It gives it a very hollow kind of sound. You can hear it. So the question is, you know, should you replace the bridge? Yeah, you could replace the bridge. Here's the problem though. after you've dumped in the electronics in this guitar, you know, at some point this guitar is gonna be an American guitar, American Strat with the prices. So instead of putting a new block on it, I'm gonna show you how I think you can improve this bridge without buying a new bridge. The first thing I wanna show you is to replace the springs. So basically you can buy these springs, there's different kinds, they're all different colors, different tensions, they're coated, they're essentially noiseless. We're going to go ahead and switch it up and go to a set of yellows. Now, all are different, you can look these up at, and my buddy Eric gave me these and I thought, you know, I've tried a couple and I liked them and I thought this would be a good time to put these into practice. Very straightforward stuff here. With the it's gonna change the way the guitar sounds. Now, some of you guys are gonna say, hey, but I like that kind of reverby, springy sound with the guitars. Well, then don't do this. That's fine. What I'm telling you is this the same as changing out the block or the bridge? Absolutely not. Is this a very inexpensive way to try something to get a better sound? Absolutely. You know, is this gonna be improved? Is this gonna give you more sustain? No. I'm gonna keep the bridge the way it is. You know, I was thinking about replacing it, but I've decided for cost, for purposes, this is the way we're gonna go. If he wants to later decide to put in a brass block, you can do that. Replace the bridge, you can do that as well. Some people want bent saddles. I actually upgrade my bent saddle Strats to solid blocks. So I'm gonna say on this particular Sharpen axe, we're gonna leave this alone. The spring upgrade is going to, so we're gonna go with, so far we've upgraded the way the neck feels. We fit and finish the frets so that they feel the right way. We've upgraded the electronics so she's gonna sound a lot better. So now we have the electronics installed. We're going to upgrade the nut and the tuning keys, and mainly because I like locking keys, so I wanna put locking keys on everything. So we're gonna upgrade to some locking keys, ratio keys, which will make this guitar fantastic. A new Tusq Nut, because that's gonna be great. And this is probably more important. You know, one thing I like to get rid of is these trees. I don't like the bent metal ones. I like either the roller ones or the smoother ones. And GrabTech came out with something really cool. They've had this for a while. These are basically Tusq trees. And what I wanna try, this is the first time I've ever installed these. I've never really tried them. I've seen them, you know, kind of out there, and for no particular reason. But what I'm really curious about, to be honest with you, is how easy is it to install them. So that's what I want to do right now, is see how easy is it. In fact, what I want to do is I want to use the original screw. Let's see if that works. Yep, it does. And just put this on and call it a day and see what happens. Yeah, that was pretty darn easy. Okay, so now of course they come with screws. You can pretty much use them, but there's nothing wrong with these screws. The holes are not stripped or anything, and obviously I could tell significantly these new screws were bigger. So you would have to drill out to put these in. But like I said, one of the things I like about modding inexpensive guitars is being able to put them back the way they were, so in case you sell them off. This is another one of those, look at that. Another one of those quick little mods. I actually kind of dig the way it looks. At first I wasn't sure. But now you take the old parts and I'll give them. Somebody also asked me on another episode about all the old parts. All the original parts go back to the owner. Now I've talked about this in videos before. This is the Gator grip tool. I'll put a link in the description. I've done that in the past. And this thing works great. You keep it in a repair shop. See how fast I don't have to put it on anything. It just works fantastic. It's probably the coolest thing ever. You know, the funny thing about this, I should tell the story just because it's funny. The reason I used this tool was somebody gave it to me because they said it was horrible. They're like, oh, this thing's horrible. It doesn't really, it's too bulky to use. It doesn't work. It's such a big size. Yeah, it fits any kind of nut, but it's too big. And I looked at it and I thought, you know, I'll show you. I thought, you know, the way the center is, it looks like I could just stick the plunger in there and then just bite onto the nut, and that was that's exactly what happens. So look at that. You can get your, and it's pretty much any situation, and it doesn't mar anything. So I like this for deinstalling and installing tuning keys. In fact, sometimes I think about just mounting a screwdriver on there and maybe have that, but really, to be honest, like I said, like you see me using it. Fantastic, fantastic little tool. So one thing that looks really good is, remember I mentioned these tuning keys that are on here are the nicer ones. You know, what are the odds? I mean, it does not look like, it looks like it's off by just a little teeny bit, but let's find number 6. They're all numbered. The odds of this going right in without, oh my goodness, look at that. That's right, folks. The ratio tuning keys do not need any plates to go into this style of tuning key on these Affinity guitars. So there you go. There you have it. This is going to be the fastest tuning key install. In fact, the majority of this tuning key install is going to be me open this plastic bag. That's just stupid. This is, I'm just laughing how fast it's going to be, and then I'm like, and 6 hours later, when I get into this thing. Okay, so let's get rid of the old keys, move them out of the way, dump out these parts. Okay, let's see how fast we can install these tuning keys. And high-speed camera, go now. And done. Ta-da! I don't know how long that was, but that felt really fast. So, long story short, they are installed. Look at that, fully done, fit perfectly. Look at that, it fit perfectly into the Squier tuning keys. I was really shocked to see how good those string trees are. You know, I never thought much about them, but boy, they seem to make a real difference when you're tuning up the guitar. And I think they look really cool. Like I said, at first I was like, you're so used to seeing metal right there, but it looks great. So as you can see right here, you can see the high detailed polished ends, the frets. See how they look just like the American ones where they're rounded over, smooth, no issues. Okay, so we got the guitar all done. New locking keys, new springs, all new electronics, new nut, new trees, and let's give it a try. So here it is in the neck position. This is the stacked single coil, and we'll give you a taste of that. You know, really what I like about that is, you know, it sounds single coily, but it's fuller, and of course it's not making noise because it's clean right now, but more importantly, it just feels a little bigger. So I want to show you a difference between what I really like when you add the single coil in the middle. Here's the neck position. Now this is the position 4, this is one back. Here we go. Okay, so here's the dirty sound on the bridge pickup. Is it feels great. It really feels like an American neck. You know, it's got that kind of real polished over the sides. It makes me want to move around the neck. It doesn't feel like anything's kind of stabbing me or just feeling like a hindrance, a restriction. It's really great. It's staying in tune really, really well. And believe it or not, I think those springs do more than what more than you could think they could do. I feel like because that's not kind of rattling back here with the springs, I feel like the strings are doing more. It's kind of hard to explain, but I would definitely say try it out. I've done where I put foam in springs and stuff, but this kind of feels a little different. So back to the neck pickup one more time. I really like it. It's got it. But that neck pickup. Have it. Another Sharpen My Axe episode down, and we got a Squier, and I really enjoyed it. Now, I'm partial to these. I've always liked the Squier bullets and the affinities. I own one myself. I like it. My mods are actually not as tricked out as this one, and that's got me thinking. So there you go. And I want to thank everyone who sent the guitars to me and trusted me with your guitars. Again, it's a really cool thing to do. I think everybody's enjoying the series so far. I sure am. And also, just a reminder, if you like the video and you'd like to see more, you can like and subscribe. And also, if you want to support the channel, you can buy t-shirts and become a patron, or just watch videos. Either way, thank you for what you're doing out there. It's great. And until next time, know your gear.